Hi, and welcome to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Emily. Today we're talking about something that affects every learner at some point: motivation. Or more specifically, what to do when you don't have any.
Yeah, that whole idea of waiting for motivation to show up before you practice English, it's not very reliable, is it? Motivation's like weather. Some days it's there, and other days, it just isn't.
Exactly. And if your learning depends completely on how motivated you feel, it's going to be very up and down. One great week, followed by 2 weeks of silence. And that's not how fluency is built.
What does build fluency and confidence is showing up even on the days when you don't feel like it. That's where discipline comes in. Not the harsh kind. Not punishment. Just the quiet habit of choosing to do it anyway.
Discipline has this bad reputation, doesn't it? People hear the word and think of pressure or forcing yourself. But real discipline is just commitment. It's deciding that your goal matters, even on boring days, even when it's not exciting.
Yeah, it's that feeling of, I've decided to care for this, even when it's not glamorous. And when you mix that kind of discipline with a bit of kindness, a bit of love for the process, that's when things really change.
That's the part people often forget, the love. It's not about being strict all the time. It's about staying connected to why you started. To the joy of expressing yourself. To the pride of understanding something new. To the you that you're becoming.
Yeah, because if it's all discipline and no love, it becomes mechanical. You feel like you're dragging yourself through it. But when there's even a little bit of love, for the language, or for your future self, it feels more meaningful.
And that love doesn't have to be big or dramatic. It could just be the way you smile when you understand a joke in English, or the satisfaction of saying something clearly without translating. That's love, too.
And those moments help you keep going. When motivation disappears, and it will disappear, it's love and discipline that keep the habit alive. They carry you through the dry spells.
So if today you're not feeling motivated, that's okay. You don't need to feel inspired to do 5 minutes of practice. You just need to remind yourself, I care about this, and I'm going to show up for it.
And that 5 minutes? That's enough. That's what builds consistency. That's what tells your brain, we're serious about this. Even when it's hard. Even when it's dull.
And sometimes that 5 minutes will turn into more. You sit down thinking you'll just listen to a short clip, or write a few sentences, and before you know it, you've done 20 minutes without even realizing.
But even if it doesn't, even if it really is just 5 quiet minutes, that still matters. That's still a vote for the kind of person you want to be. And those tiny choices build a kind of trust in yourself.
Yes, self-trust. That's something that doesn't get talked about enough in language learning. When you keep your promises to yourself, when you keep showing up, even a little bit each day, you start believing, I can do this. I will do this.
And that belief doesn't come from motivation. It comes from proof. From doing the thing, over and over, no matter how you feel. That's how discipline becomes confidence.
And the love part, that grows too. The more time you spend with English, the more you start to enjoy it, even in subtle ways. A word you like the sound of. A sentence that finally makes sense. A feeling of, this is getting easier.
And that's when it shifts, isn't it? From something you're forcing into your day to something that belongs in your day. It's not a task anymore, it's a thread running through your routine.
I think a lot of people are waiting for motivation to push them into action. But it's often the other way around. You act first, and the motivation shows up later.
Right. It's a bit like going for a walk. You don't always feel like doing it at first, but once you've started, you think, actually, I'm glad I came out. It's the same with practice. You rarely regret doing it, but you often regret skipping it.
Exactly. So the question isn't, How do I stay motivated every day? It's how can I show up for myself even when I'm not? And the answer is, with discipline and love. That's your anchor. That's what keeps you steady.
Because you'll keep going, no matter the weather.
That's the part most people miss. It's not about how fast you go, it's about how often you return. How often you show up, even if it's just for a little while. Even if you're tired. Even if you're not in the mood.
And when you practice that kind of steady return, it becomes a habit. Not just a routine, but a way of thinking, a quiet message to yourself that says, this matters to me.
And it's gentle, too. Discipline doesn't have to be harsh. You don't have to push or punish yourself into learning. You can show up kindly. You can bring curiosity. You can bring softness.
Yeah, it's not about being tough all the time. Sometimes real strength is just quiet consistency. Letting yourself be human, letting your practice be imperfect, but still showing up anyway.
And that's where the love comes back in. You're not learning English because someone's forcing you. You're learning it because you care. Because it opens something in you. Because you want to grow.
And when that's your reason, it becomes a lot easier to keep going, even when it's slow, even when no one's watching. It's personal. It's yours.
That's something I wish every learner could hear. Your progress doesn't need to be loud to be real. It doesn't need to be fast to be meaningful. Quiet progress is still progress.
Absolutely. And I think that's where motivation becomes less important. Because once you've got the habit, once you've built the rhythm, you don't need to wait for a spark. You've already created the path, you just keep walking it.
And some days the walk is light and breezy. Other days it's slow, and you're dragging your feet. But either way, you're still moving. And that's what matters most.
So if motivation's low today, don't worry. You haven't failed. You're just in a normal part of the process. And that's where discipline and love can step in, to hold the habit until the motivation returns.
Because motivation always comes and goes. It's not reliable. It's like the tide. Sometimes it rushes in and gives you that extra push, and other times it pulls away, and leaves you standing there wondering where it went.
Yeah, and if you only ever take action when the tide's in, you'll be waiting a lot of the time. But if you've built something steady, something you can lean on, then you can keep going, whether the tide's with you or not.
That's the beauty of a good habit. It doesn't depend on how you feel in the moment. It's just part of what you do. And it doesn't mean every session will be great. It just means you're still here, still learning, still showing up.
And the thing is, showing up doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need a full grammar lesson every time. Sometimes showing up means listening to a 5-minute clip while you brush your teeth. Sometimes it's reading 2 sentences and saying them out loud.
And sometimes it's just opening your notes, looking at a phrase you wrote last week, and whispering it to yourself. That's still connection. That's still care. It's a quiet kind of discipline, but it works.
And the more you practice that quiet consistency, the more you realize you're actually learning. You're remembering things without trying. You're noticing words. You're speaking a little more easily.
And it's not because of one big effort. It's because of 100 small ones. 100 little choices where you said, even though I'm tired. Even though I'm not feeling it. I'll give it 5 minutes.
Those are the choices that build fluency. Not big dramatic study sessions, but everyday decisions to stay close to the language.
And you know what? There's something really beautiful about that. Because it means your learning isn't built on pressure, it's built on care. Not on fear, but on love.
Yeah. It becomes something you nurture, like a plant. You're not forcing it to grow overnight. You're just giving it light and water, day after day. And it grows because you kept showing up for it.
And the same applies to your English. It grows because you gave it space. You gave it your attention. You gave it patience, not perfection. Just patience.
And that kind of growth lasts. Because it wasn't rushed. It wasn't panicked. It was built slowly, with real care. So even when progress feels invisible, it's still happening underneath.
Exactly. And when learners understand that they don't need to feel amazing every day, they just need to keep going, that's when things start to change. Not suddenly. Quietly. Steadily.
I think one of the most powerful things a learner can say to themselves is, I'll do a little bit today, even if I'm not in the mood. That simple sentence, that choice, is where fluency begins.
And that's where discipline feels different. It's no longer about forcing yourself. It becomes a kind of loyalty to your own growth. To the version of you that's trying. That still believes it's worth it.
That version of you deserves support, not pressure. Deserves structure, not stress. Deserves love, not just for the progress, but for the effort.
And the more you see it that way, the more peaceful your learning becomes. Less about chasing something, more about growing into it. Less about control, more about
It becomes something you can trust. Not dramatic, not always exciting, but steady. And steady is what leads to strong.
And strong doesn't have to mean loud or fast. It can mean quiet, consistent, rooted. A kind of strength you carry gently, but every day.
That's the kind of strength that lasts. Not the kind that comes from big bursts of energy, but the kind that grows from discipline and love, day after day, even when no one sees it.
So if you're listening to this and thinking, I haven't been motivated lately, just remember, that's okay. You're not doing this because you feel inspired all the time. You're doing it because it matters to you.
And that reason is enough. Keep showing up. Keep being kind to yourself. Let discipline hold your hand when motivation disappears, and let love remind you why you're still walking this path.
Thanks for spending this time with us. We hope it brought you a bit of clarity, a bit of peace, and a gentle reminder that your quiet effort really does matter.
You're doing better than you think, and we're glad you're here.
Take care of yourself. And we'll speak to you again soon.
See you next time.